Hey everybody, it's Joe Trippi and welcome back to That Trippi Show with my co-host Alex Sashlow. This week it's taco time. No,
Wait,
Alex,
seriously?
not food.
Yeah. Damn it.
Trump got a taste of his own medicine this week and didn't like it. Plus, ding dong, Elon's gone. Yeah, right. And we finally get to your questions. I know it's been a while. Alex, where should we get started?
So wait, is this a cooking show now? Is my dream finally a reality?
Oh gosh. Yeah. Well, yeah, but you do make a mean pizza. So, yeah, I guess we could
Thanks,
do
man.
that.
So let's talk about the taco thing. This time it is not that Taco Bell in Trump Tower. It is something Trump's actually really pissed about. He's really mad at tacos, Joe.
Yeah, no, he's well. I think it's a phrase coined by Financial Times columnist Robert Armstrong, in which he basically called out the taco trade that with tariffs and everything, if you're playing the market or any of those kinds of things, that you should always, when basically understand the taco trade, which is Trump always chickens out. So when he puts on tariffs and the market collapses, you buy, then knowing that he always chickens out. When he does chicken out, the market soars and you sell. And evidently, yeah, Trump's response is, I chicken out. I've never heard that, he said. Then he said, don't ever say that, what you said. That's a nasty question. I mean, that's the nastiest question. He lost it. He completely lost it, that he was being called out for all his back and forth on tariffs and other things where he always, in the end, just loses it. Anyway, I thought it was pretty funny, but that's exactly what we need to do to Trump. He's got to get a taste of his own message and using, catchy terms to call him out, like the taco trade or putting that, you remember all his nicknames. Oh, now he's
Right.
Don
This is
Taco
doing
Trump.
this to the guy that created Little Marco and Lion Tat.
Right,
Like
right.
this is hitting him in a way he can understand, which I really love.
Yeah, well, we can't let this be a flash in the pan, though. I mean, again, the thing I think we do need to find is, I think the taco trade is great. And of course, it hits him where it hurts because he's got to be the strong man, and he hates the idea that there's anything referring to a chicken in a phrase that gets to him. But I still think we need to find the corrupt, whether it's not corrupt on the corrupt. I mean, but well, there's got to be, because that's the thing I still think among all his the things that he's doing, the most dangerous is the kind of the Putinization of on U.S. soil of combining the power of government with self-enrichment. And it's clear, I mean, it's just becoming clear every day. That's what really is the driving ideology of Trump and Trumpism. And I think we need to, it would be good to find the taco that makes people out there, more people understand what he's doing, that is, I think, clearly the way to get him. I mean, it's easy to understand. There are a lot of examples every day piling up. And if we've got to really bang on corruption. And I'm not sure Taco does that, but I still like Taco.
Well, it's the classic bully thing, right? And like his response is basically, I know you are, but it's like, I don't chicken out. I'm the strongest one. Really, I'm the
Yeah,
strongest one. I mean,
yeah.
honestly, if I
Well,
were like an Iranian war, like some security officer in Iran or some warlord in Mali or something, I'd be very worried that he's going to launch like a strike on them just to prove that he
no,
doesn't chicken out.
no. That's what there was I saw a post on somewhere, and I wish because I'd attribute it to the person who did it, but it was great. He was like, when Trump went out and said, that I don't like what Putin's doing. Something's gone wrong. He's crazy. He's changed. He must stop now. Somebody posted, Putin needs to watch out because Trump might all caps him. That's the big threat. Or, it's really, I think people are starting to get the ridicule of him. And what I'm saying is, I think we need to find ways to do that around the corruption, because I think that's the one that will get most voters to throw him out. in
I think it
Trumpism.
might have been Ron Filipowski over at our firm.
It was great. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you for.
extremely funny.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, the other one I wanted to make sure we got to today, Joe, and basically as we're recording this, news is starting to come out. Elon Musk has announced he's stepping back. He's done. Joe, is he sick of it? Is he trying to triage Tesla? Should we believe he's gone from this regime? I think I heard what you said in the intro. I think I know where you're going.
Yeah, don't get too carried away, gang. He was limited to 130 days as a quote special government employee, unquote. And and DOGE is going to stick around. It's like he was, I think it was at the UAE, right, where Altman was trying to get the AI build a big center in I think it was the UAE, and it turns out that Musk went out there, told them that they can't do that deal because the president wouldn't do that unless Elon Musk's AI was involved. And so, no, he's clearly still. Now, I don't know whether he derailed the Altman project or not, but my point is, no, he's got no say. He's not really doing anything. Of course not. He's gone. And yeah, he's going to go supposedly focus on his own businesses. Okay. Well, he's got an AI company. He's very focused on it. And he's trying to shut down everybody else because of his affiliation with Donald Trump. And as we know, you can't count on whether Donald Trump is cashing in on any of that stuff with him. So now you look under the hood, he's clearly pissed off that his $290 million plus didn't get him everything he wanted.
Which, by the
He's
way, that's just the money we know about.
yeah,
So, yeah.
his quotes on the spending bill, he's disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decreases it and undermines the work that the DOGE team is doing. I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both, unquote. So,
I
I'm
love
not
much.
saying that there aren't, he gets to quietly, to basically say things like that and
He
say I've
must
moved
have
away.
looked at that CBS News article we linked last week, showing just
Yeah.
how much money they were spending more.
Yeah. They're spending 200 billion more than he quote cut. So, in the first 100 days or something like that. I mean, it's just, that's what I'm saying. None of this is true. That all the havoc that Elon and Doge caused by firing and then having their hire, all the craziness, even if it did anywhere near what they said, it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is that the government reports spending and literally every day. And we've already spent like literally at the 100-day mark, $200 billion more than in the previous same period. So no, the spending's going up. They're going to pass they're going to do the tax cuts and everything else, which is going to make again more spending, less, and the only cuts they're making are going to be again same thing, things people need. No, Elon isn't. His influence is going to be there the whole time. And now the problem is at least Doge, you could you could see what they were doing in departments and stuff. At least as because they would put out reports and all that. He's not going to report anything anymore. I mean, I'm not here, so I don't have to tell you that I called the president to tell him to kill the AI deal in the UAE. And again, that's what gets back to the corruption in this government. That it really is the Putinization of our government in the same spirit that Putin has created in Russia, combining using the power of his political power for and combining it, fusing it with personal enrichment of those of himself, Putin, and those oligarchs and others closest to him. That's literally the mirror now that you're seeing here with Trump. That's the government. That's the system he's creating. And so it's not really the traditional autocratic kind of thing where you really, autocrats tend to build their own bureaucracies to basically, make everything function in their autocratic style. Maybe he's doing that at ICE. He's definitely trying to do that with the military. I think hopefully it'll be harder there. But but what's they don't really focus on that stuff very much, except in a few places. Probably justice. Yeah, they're very important places, don't get me wrong, but what they're really focused on is creating a fiefdom where the where all the everything that you're draining from the people and from the governments out there that you're threatening, everything flows to you. Everything is and what's different about it too, and I know we're on Elon Musk, but I think it hits me that what's different about it is that most people think corruption in government is somebody coming to an official with a bribe, right? Hey, I really need this building permit, and here's, $10,000 because it's a major development and I could really use your help. Okay, that's how it usually goes down. No, with Trump and with Putin, I mean, same style, is you demand the bribe. I mean, you don't wait for someone to, for Canada to come to you. You go to Canada and you say, hey, $61 billion of Golden Dome protection. I want, and I'll exchange that for you if you make Canada the 51st state. Now, ain't going
Yeah.
to happen. You go to the perfect call with Zelensky, right? Give me stuff on Biden and I'll get this done for you. He's the one demanding bribes every single day. And frankly, if law firms have given them, have said, okay, yeah, here, you want 100 million to not go after us? Here's $100 million in free billings. It's the same thing. I mean, everywhere, he demands the bribe and everybody is caving. And now you have Elon Musk out there, not connected, not a 130-day, special employee, who is making similar demands in using the president's name, whether the president's in on it or not. I find it hard to believe he wouldn't be. But, maybe Elon is just, bluffing people, but he's using the same MO.
Well, let's stay on the corruption thing. I got two listener questions I'm going to combine, and then I'm going to read you some stuff from this week's Navigator, which I find fascinating. All right, this is from Barnes in South Carolina. It's one of my favorite questions we've gotten in a long time. Wasn't Trump supposed to drain the swamp? I think you just illustrated why and how he had no desire whatsoever to do that. But the second one was from Sora in
Well,
Chicago. Is the way to win making this about Trump or not? I'm worried that the default response will be, well, they just hate Trump. So combining those two, Joe, I want your take, and then I got some numbers for you.
well, the first thing is drain the swamp makes perfect sense. If you understand that the swamp is we the people and that Trump, the people who are enriching themselves around him, are everything they're draining is coming from us and ending in their pockets in one way. And by the way, I mean, the same thing with our power. If you're worried about about Trump attacking you, well, it's the US, it's us. It's in our name. And so what I'm saying is when he causes our allies to distrust America, that's draining us of the trust those countries had in us. If it's lining his pockets, if it's taking that jumbo fraud plane, it's all of this is about him draining America's strength, the American people's wallets, making us, if there got to be cuts so he can give his rich friends continue the tax breaks, he'll take it from us. It'll be, children, seniors, all these things we're the swamp. We're the swamp and he is draining it, baby. And it's our pockets that he's draining. So that's what I think is part of this. On the question of, is it making this about Trump? Look, the real interesting thing is, and I think maybe this is where you're going to go to on the, is it a bad idea to make it all about him? A lot of the polling says that the more you, one, recognize the problem that exists, whatever that we're talking about, whether it's healthcare. Yes, the healthcare needs to be acknowledged that it's not perfect, right? That it needs to be improved. But, we're democracy itself, right? It's not to defend democracy, it's to acknowledge that democracy isn't working for a lot of people and we need to make it better. And then go into how the to broaden it beyond Trump. Trump make sure that we're, and maybe I think, Alex, you're going to get to some examples of that in the numbers. But I think it's really clear that you have to invoke Trump, but there's a better way to do it than just making it
Yeah.
all about him.
Well, so this gets to kind of the minefield we've been talking about on and off for the last couple of months. One of the things that everyone needs to take away is we cannot get into this rhythm of defending the status quo. It is not
Right.
just Trump wants to break the status quo, we're for the status quo. No, Trump wants to break it, we want to fix it. Right? I mean, just in
Right.
very shorthand. And so this is what's wild. So first of all, the grift that keeps on giving, totally true. But so basically this new navigator
Yeah,
research
that's
shows,
the
yeah.
research that we were looking at this morning. Exactly. That's what
So
I was getting to.
Americans see corruption in both sides. Bottom line, everybody thinks both parties are corrupt. Most people do. What they did, which I think is fascinating, and this is exactly avoiding the tradition, what I'm calling the traditional Democratic trap. Two messages from Democrats. Message one: the scale of corruption under Trump massively outweighs that of any past presidency, Democrat or Republican, and we need to do something about it. Okay, that's message one. Message two, and I realized as a visual medium, I'm holding my fingers up on video. So maybe on video someday we'll try to do this. Message two: Washington has a major corruption party problem in both parties, and we need to enact significant reforms and overhaul the system to hold Trump as well as other Republicans and Democrats accountable for corruption. Now, they tested that against the classic Republican response, which Sora, our questioner from Chicago, asked, which was Trump isn't any more corrupt than any other president. Anyone who says otherwise just wants to hurt Trump. Okay, so the unprecedented one, the one where he's just super corrupt, it does beat the Republican message in their testing. It's 50 to 37 plus 13. Fine. But saying that, admitting that Washington has a major corruption problem in both parties, the major reform across all things, plus 41, 64-23, it crushes it. So it's like, while it all feels good to talk about Trump, it doesn't break through. And then
Well,
if you look at all the categories, which again we're going to get to a Nate Silver question in a minute, independence, the major reform, everybody's got to work together, hold them everybody accountable for corruption, fix the system. It crushes with independents, non-MAGA Republicans, young men, and the kind of infrequent news consumers, the ones that only barely know about the Pope and have heard of tariffs but have not heard about Medicaid. It's stuff like that really cuts through.
yeah, but I think it's actually probably a combined. In other words, the interesting thing about that would have been there's a problem with corruption. Both sides in Washington needs to be fixed because Donald Trump has taken it to a new level. List two or three of the things that specifically take it to Trump and then go back to that. In other words, what I'm saying is if you don't lead with Trump is the worst in all time and the most corrupt guy ever, enter it the way they did in the second version, begin it that way, and then bring in midway in, bring in that Trump is that this problem that needs to be fixed.
Right.
Both sides are responsible for it. It needs to be reformed. Has been made even worse now because Donald Trump has become has taken corruption to a whole new level, accepting plain, and go into it. I think could be pretty powerful. I mean, they didn't test it that way, but that's how when I look at it, at those questions, that's my gut about how we should use it. I still think corruption is even if you look at just the unprecedented first version, you know, 50, 30, what was it?
It was 50 to 37 on the
Yeah,
Trump is more corrupt, and
Yeah,
64,
and that's against the
23.
Republican counter. And so, hey, if that says to you, corruption's it, baby. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Even if you look at that at version of how to go after him, it's 50-37. And that's with the Republicans, with them getting their shot at, oh, anybody who says he's the most corrupt is just, when both parties are doing it, it's just out to get Trump. Okay, that's going to be their response. The American people, 50-37, say, no, he is the most corrupt guy ever. That's not a bad place to keep pushing. I do think, as we pointed out, there's a better way to do it. I'm just saying, I think it might be combining them in smart messaging that combines those two arguments and maybe it won't get to that to the full strength. And one of the things that worries me about the second version of it is that, yeah, a lot of people might hear that and go, yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I'm for that. But I'm not sure it strikes the same intensity. I'd like to go back and look at those numbers. I just think it's about combining the two arguments that, yeah, but the more important thing, the lesson of that poll, the Navigator poll, is that the first step, whether it's in defending democracy, whether it's making the charge of corruption, whether it's when he goes after Medicaid and the healthcare system, is to acknowledge that Medicaid and the healthcare system aren't perfect. They need, both parties have avoided doing what needs to be done, whatever, but Trump is taking us in the wrong direction. We need reform. I mean, in other words, basically enter into it. We're defending democracy. We're not defending the status quo. Alex pointed that out. Don't defend the status quo. Acknowledge that the status quo is worthy of change and needed reform. But Trump's corruption, Trump's, destroying the entire department of education is, needs to be challenged and fought and stopped. And again, I think part of the real thing moving forward is Democrats and pro-democracy voices need to basically say, look, this guy's corrupt. He's destroying everything. We're going to have to rebuild. But when we do, we're not going to, there's an opportunity not to rebuild things exactly the way they were, but to rebuild them, reform them, reorientate them to in a better way that better serves the American people. Destruction isn't doing that, and destroying while corruption is lining his pockets and maybe the major reason he's in office is something that we need to work together to throw out and change.
So there's a couple awesome questions we've gotten. There was a really good post from Nate Silver this week that I really want to get to, but that's going to be a whole show in and of itself, talking about turnout and what Democrats can do. Joe, I'm going to leave you with one more, and then we got a wrap for the day. I think you'll have fun with this. This is from G in Texas. I read an article that basically said the first casualty of AI will be our social networks. Bots posting AI content, then bots just liking that content, elbowing out humans. I kind of find myself being okay with that. Joe, I would love for you to react to that, and then we can let everybody enjoy their weekend.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, if you enjoy being divided and angry at things, it'll work out just great. They'll just be bots pretending to be one group attacking bots who are pretending to be the other group and going at it. Yeah, no humans involved. Basically, by the way, this is essentially what's going on right now. Except that a lot of human beings are fighting with bots that have picked them out on purpose because, hey, this will be a good fight and I can divide and push them further away. So no, I don't find myself okay with that at all. I think what we need to do is create, and it would be very, you can get rid of the bots, but the reason none of the social networks want to get rid of the bots is because if you have 4 million bots on your network, that's 4 million more accounts that you can sell to your advertisers. Not only that, those 4 million bots, they create a lot of screaming and yelling and people engaging. And so that's good too, because the more engagement, the more advertising. And so, yeah, no, the bots are everybody's friends but ours. There, if you're into corporate greed, that's why we have all the bots on most of these networks and why no one's going to get rid of them. But we can create social networks that cut the bots out. But that's the interesting thing. So instead, the reaction should be, hey, bots posting AI content and then bots liking them, elbowing out humans. And I find myself being okay with that. Why don't we go to human beings providing content and human beings liking or disliking them, and let's elbow out the fucking bots? Now, I find myself really okay with that. And that's where we need to head, because if we don't head in that direction, these networks and the doom scrolling and the bots and algorithms pushing us all into hating each other and hating on each other will continue, and democracy cannot function. In fact, they all know that's why Russians and bots and other folks are all over these networks elbowing out sane people.
I think that is a very good place for us to end today, Joe.
I don't know. That wasn't very uplifting. I usually try to end on something that, get people something to look for. Look, I think that I've become more and more convinced that if we're going to save our democracy, people have to become a lot more engaged. It's hard work. It's easy to post on X. It's hard work to find says us to start a place where people go. And it's smaller, but we're building a network. It's a pro-democracy network. I think it's the same thing with the hands-off rallies. Yes, it's 3 million people that have been showing up. It's the hard work of finding another friend or a coworker or a family member to go with you so we can get it to 6 million. But we've got to be active on building our own social networks, building a movement that's pro-democracy to take the corruption and the just ugly violence of Donald Trump and what he's doing, and force over time these MAGA congressmen and senators. They're far more worried about losing a primary to a MAGA base than they are losing to us in a general election. And we have to start showing up and reacting in numbers that change that equation, that make them fear us in the general of 2026 more than they fear their MAGA base. They probably won't. I mean, they'll probably go into that election, hopefully, in fear of both. And if they're in fear of MAGA, then unfortunately, they will continue to be with Trump and be with MAGA and keep looking the other way and seeing no evil, hearing no evil, speaking no evil, unless it's to repeat Trump's lies. But then that fear that they had the whole time, as they watched us get bigger and watched us grow from 3 million to 6 million to 12 million, and see us vocal in the streets, nonviolent protests, calling their offices, letting them getting louder and louder, then what happens in that general will be sweeping every single one of them out. That has to be not 18. We need to go after every one of those people who sits there in that election and is still with Donald Trump against the American people for his corruption against us. And we need to make a stand on that day in November of 2026 and crush every single one of them. That's hard work. This is the beginning of the end. 2026 has to be the end. Thanks everybody for listening to that Trippi show. Remember, Says Us is live. It's a civil social network for real human beings. Part of the hard work is, yes, oh my God, I'll have to go actually check out another app. Yes, but we need to build one that's for us. So join us at SEZ.US. It's in your Android, your Google, and Apple app stores. And I think we're going to have some pretty good happenings in the next week or two. So I hope you'll join. This podcast is always free and is part of Lincoln Square. So check out the latest at Lincoln Square. Please subscribe to That Trippi Show. Leave a review on Apple or wherever you listen. You can always send us questions at Alex.
ThatTrippyShow@gmail.com. We got to a bunch today. We'll get to a bunch more next time.
Great. Thanks, everybody.